Okay, wonderful. All right. How are you? Good to see you. Hey, there's that blue soda. That's great. Wonderful. Hey, how are you? Hi. Hey, Stan. Always good to see you. Great. Terrific. Okay. Hi there. You're looking great. How are you? Good to see you. That's wonderful. We'll just get on in here. How are you? Good to see you. That's great. All right. I'll be there. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Say, you're a really enthusiastic group. But you know we've got a right to be enthusiastic because we're here to talk about a subject which, properly understood and applied to our lives, will lead to zestful and victorious and confident living, and that's something to be enthusiastic about. You know, this is a very diverse group. We're here from all sections of the North American continent. We come from all kinds of backgrounds. Some of us here are already involved in the exciting business of selling SMI programs. Others of you here are looking at the SMI opportunity. Some of you own a program. You're here to find out better ways, get some insight into how to use it. Others of you have heard about SMI, and you're here to find out about these programs and how they can apply to your lives. But in spite of all of these differences, there's a common bond that unites all of us, and that is we are all interested in success. But you know, that's not just true of this group. We could go into any city in the world, and we could get a group of people together at random, and that group of people would also be interested in success. Because you see, everybody is interested in success. Nobody wants to fail. And of course, that's one of the exciting things about being in the SMI business. We're selling something that everybody is interested in because we sell success. These two words, success and motivation, are more than just the name of our organization. These two words express the purpose of our business. They embody the reason that we're in business. And our purpose here today is to examine these two ideas. Because you see, if we can really understand these two words and what they mean, we'll do a whole lot more than just understand SMI as a business. We will understand concepts that are vitally important to our future success and achievement. Now let's begin by getting a good definition of this word success. We define it this way, that success is the progressive realization of worthwhile, predetermined personal goals. Now you take that definition and you examine it. You look at it very carefully. Let the full impact of that definition get into your mind. First of all, we recognize that that definition says that success is a personal thing. This means that it's a different thing for different people. It also says that there is a moral and an ethical quality to success, that the goal should be a worthwhile goal. But perhaps the most significant thing about that definition is that it pinpoints the fact that success is a journey and not a destination. It fixes the point of success at the beginning and not at the end. That definition says that any individual who sets a worthwhile personal goal and moves towards that goal is successful. And it says that the moment he sets that goal and the moment he moves towards it, that's the moment of his success. And you know what's more? He knows it. He experiences daily the thrill of success and accomplishment. He has that rare mixture of inner excitement and inner calm that is the basis for successful living. Our business is helping people to set worthwhile personal goals and to move towards them. Now let's look at this other word, motivation. When you see that word motivation, what synonyms, what adjectives, what descriptive phrases come to your mind as you think about the word motivation? What does it make you think of?
Movement. I'd say movement.
Okay, movement. All right, good. Motivation is movement. That's kind of a long word, movement. Can we shorten it?
Move.
Move. All right, good. Motivation means move. What else does it mean?
Action.
Action. That's another long one. Can you shorten that one?
Act.
Okay, act. Motivation is move. It's act. We've got a 4-letter word and a 3-letter word. Let's try for 2. Can you think of a 2-letter word that means motivation?
Do.
Do. Very good. Well, I don't think we can beat that, but maybe we can tie it. Can you think of another 2-letter word that means motivation? Go. All right. Motivation is exactly that. It is the move, it is the act, it is the do and the go in behavior. Our business, you see, is getting people into action, getting them to do what they already know how to do. Let's look at it from another viewpoint. If I cover up the last 5 letters of that word, another word jumps out at you. What do you see? Motive. All right. Motivation and motive go together. Well, what's the word motive mean?
A motive is a reason.
All right, a motive is a reason. What else is a motive?
Objective.
It's an objective, a purpose. A motive is a goal. And what we're saying is that an individual who is motivated must be one who has a motive and a purpose and a goal. They go together. Look at the word some more. Let me cover up the first half of it. Another word jumps out. What word do you see? You see action. And that's a perfect description or definition of what motivation means. Motivation is goal-directed action. That's exactly the definition that we had for success. And so you see, these two terms, these two ideas go together. They're synonymous. They're inseparable. They mean the same thing. We cannot have success without motivation. We cannot separate these two ideas. Now let's look at motivation from another viewpoint, sort of in a historical context. First of all, the idea of motivation is very, very current. You read the sports pages, you look at the editorials, you look around you anywhere, listen anywhere, and you hear the word motivation. A coach is talking about how his ball team won the game because they were more motivated than the other team. A minister is talking about how do you motivate people in religious work. Educators are talking about motivation. This word is on the front of people's minds. It's on the tip of their tongue. Now, of course, this is great because this creates a wonderful climate in which we can do business. When we say we're in the motivation business, people say, come right in. I want to hear about that. But the idea of motivation is also very old. Actually, it goes back clear to the history of the human race. Now, the oldest, most primitive form of motivation was motivation through fear. And the idea behind this was that a man is going to motivate by forcing other people to do what he wanted them to do. In the very earliest days, the motivator was the one who was the biggest and the strongest. And then man made a discovery. He invented money. And when he invented money, he created a tremendous capacity to use fear and force as a method of motivation because he developed economic power and economic leverage. A perfect illustration of this is back in the Middle Ages. You know, back there, the man that had the money owned the castle, he owned the soldiers, he owned the land, he even owned the people that worked on the land. Now, to him, the problem of motivation was very simple. You know, if they didn't work, you just haul one of them in and strung him up. It was simple. But we don't have to look back to the Middle Ages to get that kind of a situation. We can look right here in our own country 50 to 60 years ago, and we can see situations in which people tried to use fear or force as a method of motivating others to do what they wanted them to do. Fear, as a viable method of motivation, lost its effectiveness when the people who were getting pushed around by it decided that they weren't going to put up with it and recognized that even though they couldn't do anything about it as individuals, collectively they could. They came to the conclusion and understood the idea that in unity or in union, there is strength. Kind of an interesting word, union. And so they joined together. And fear no longer would work as a method of motivation. So faced with that, something else had to be thought of. Something else had to be devised. And the thing that was invented seemed to be almost a miraculous answer. Because what we came up with was another kind of motivation called incentive motivation. And incentive motivation is a motivational approach or psychology based on reward. Now, the very best picture that we can get of incentive motivation is a carrot on the end of a stick in front of a donkey pulling a cart. Now, get that in your mind. Now, that'll work, but there are some conditions. Let's examine those conditions. First of all, how about that carrot? What about it? What's it got to have? What characteristic?
It had to be big enough.
All right, it had to be big enough. Very good. That donkey had to smell it and want it. Now, how about that stick?
It had to be long enough.
Long enough?
Short enough.
That's right, short enough. Right. The carrot had to be on a short stick so that donkey could smell it and think he wanted it. How about the donkey?
He had to be hungry.
Hungry, right. How about the cart?
Light enough.
Light enough. All right. If we've got, then, a big enough carrot and a short enough stick and a hungry enough donkey and a light enough cart, this thing will just roll along. But there's a problem. You see, we're not dealing with donkeys, we're dealing with men. And a man figures that out. You know, he looks up there and he sees that carrot all right, but he figures out the significance of the stick. He says, shoot, it doesn't make any difference how fast I chase that carrot and pull this cart. I'm not ever going to catch it. So to make it work on him, every now and then you've got to give him a bite of the carrot. Well, that's great. That solves one problem, but it creates another one. Because now we've affected a very important aspect of the formula, which is the hunger of the donkey. Now, so you want to motivate him again that way, you have to give him a bigger carrot, the shorter stick, the lighter cart, and you keep that up, and pretty soon you find out that you're paying more and more for less and less. Now, I'm not saying, don't misunderstand me, that incentives are not good, and that incentive motivation is not good. I'm saying simply that people who are trying to depend on it as the basic, fundamental method of motivation are getting that strange, uneasy feeling that it just doesn't seem to work as well as it used to. For an example, an article appeared in Fortune magazine not long ago. It was a study of executive compensation. It was talking about using money as a method to motivate top executives. And they found that in order to motivate a top executive with money, they had to inject it into his compensation picture in massive doses. In other words, they had to give him $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 a year in order for him to move at all as a result of this kind of motivation. You know, you give him a little $25,000 a year raise, and he says, who needs it? Now, of course, the same thing works all the way up and down the socioeconomic ladder until you get down to a certain level where there are a group of people who say, I can have everything I want, and I can get everything I need and satisfy my appetite on what they'll get me for not working at all. Now, here's an interesting fact. We can sit here and in just a very few minutes analyze these two forms of motivation and recognize their shortcomings and understand that they reach very rapidly a point of diminishing returns. And yet the interesting thing is that most of the people who are motivating are trying to use some combination of fear or incentive to motivate. And that's what creates such a tremendous opportunity for SMI, because you see, we have come with another method of motivation. We have discovered a new way to motivate and have made it practical. And that kind of motivation is attitude motivation, and the psychology of attitude motivation is change. In other words, what we are saying is instead of driving the donkey with a stick or luring the donkey with a carrot, we say change the donkey into a thoroughbred. Get him to run because he wants to run, because the running blood is in his veins. Now, I recognize that you can't change a donkey. Once he's a donkey, he's always a donkey. You can enter a donkey in the Kentucky Derby every year for 100 years, and he's never going to win it. But a man can change. When motivation is based on attitude change, it's an inside-out proposition. It's permanent. The fact that we have discovered a practical method to motivate people through attitude is the reason why Success Motivation Institute has spread all across America into every state in the Union, It's in every province in Canada. It's in almost every country in South America. It's in England. It's in Australia. It's around the world because this is a great idea. This is an idea whose time has come, and nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Let's examine how it works. What we are saying is that we are going to affect the basic personality of an individual. Examine this word personality. When you think of the word personality, what do you think of? Is personality something on the inside or something on the outside of an individual? All right, it's both, right. Personality, then, is the outer expression of something that's on the inside. So the question, then, is what is it on the inside of which personality is the outer expression? What do we have on the inside of us that our personality expresses on the outside?
It's just what we were talking about. It's our attitude.
All right, our attitude. Exactly. Personality is an outer expression of inner attitude. What's attitude?
The way we feel.
The way we feel, all right. The way we think. Okay, it's close. Attitude's related to thought, but it's different from thought. Actually, an attitude, if we stop and think about it, is a habit of thought. Now, let's examine that. What we are saying is that we have thought certain kinds of thoughts about ourselves, about other people, until these thoughts have become habits. And these habits have become attitudes, and these attitudes make up our personality. Habits of thought. Well, what's a habit? What word do you think of when you think of the word habit?
Something you do automatically.
All right, something you do automatically. Automatic is a good word that correlates with the word habit. What's another one?
Instinctive.
All right, instinctive. Excellent. What's another one? Reflex. All right, that's very good. I think probably that's the best one. An attitude is a habit of thought, and a habit is a reflex. Now, what we're saying is that we are motivating people by giving them a new set of automatic and instinctive reflexes, by exposing them to positive thoughts and ideas. They begin to develop new thought habits. And these new thought habits express themselves in attitudes, and these attitudes become their personality. Now, if we'll let the real significance of that idea hit us, we'll recognize that what we are saying is that what we are, this person that we know ourselves to be, is really made up of our attitudes, and our attitudes are made up of what we think. And so what we are saying is that what we are is what we think about. Now, the Bible puts it in an interesting way. It says that whatsoever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now, the whole genius of the SMI idea is that we are going to motivate people by changing their personality. And we're going to change their personality by changing their thoughts. Well, now, I know we all agree that that's a great idea. Anybody that could do that, any organization that could do it, would have a tremendous opportunity. But now we've got to examine its practicality. We've got to decide whether we can actually do it, whether we can pull it off. Can this be done? Well, the first thing that we've got to recognize is that it's not easy. It's difficult to change attitudes, difficult to change thought habits. If we are going to change them, let's be honest and recognize we're going to have to exert a force to get it done. So examine this concept or this idea of force. When we think about force, look at it and analyze it, we'll recognize that force manifests itself in two ways. First, the force of impact, or the force of repetition. Impact meaning a one-time contact, repetition meaning a multiple contact. Looking at this concept or idea of force, which is the stronger, impact or repetition? Exactly. Now, repetition is much stronger than impact. Now, there's a lot of ways that we could illustrate this. I think Perhaps a good one would be to take the Grand Canyon for an example. It's an awesome sight. Now just try to remember or imagine what kind of a collision it would have taken by some body from outer space to rip into that western desert, rip out the Grand Canyon, not even leave any dirt over on the sides. Our mind just almost boggles trying to think about it. And yet we know that an insignificant western river cut that Grand Canyon through the process of erosion or repetition. Let's take another example. Let's say that I wanted to drive a nail as big as this pencil into a solid piece of oak lumber. And I was out trying to find the man that could drive that nail with one lick. It'd be hard to find a man with a good enough eye and a good enough arm to drive a nail that big in one lick. I've got a 14-year-old boy that can do it if you'll give him enough repetitions. And so repetition is much stronger than impact. And this idea of spaced repetition is one of the fundamental concepts upon which the SMI idea is built. So we've got the power of spaced repetition. Now we've got to face a very practical reality. And that practical reality is that the greatest enemy of habit change is present habit. Now consider it. If you ask a person to make too great a habit change in order to get a new habit, you'll be defeated by the habit itself. And so to handle and solve this problem, we developed another of the basic concepts of SMI programming, which is ease and convenience of use. These programs are on cassette tape. They're on recordings. They're organized in such a way that an individual can listen to them anytime. You can listen to them in the morning when you're dressing, preparing for the day. You can listen to them in your car on the way to work. You can listen to them at home or at the office, anytime, any place. An absolute maximum of convenience. A very, very important aspect of SMI programming. Another very important aspect of the programs is that they're relevant. They're dealing with the things that people are interested in. They're pertinent. And they're written and recorded and presented in a very interesting way. And so you see, it's not only that we have programs that are based on an exciting concept. We have programs that are interesting and relevant and convenient and powerful enough to get the job done. We've got programs that work. Now, when I say we've got programs that work, I mean we've got programs that always work. They never miss on anybody. When I say that, obviously, I've got to add some conditions. And the first of these conditions is that an SMI program, in order to work, has got to be used. You know, it's not some kind of a recorded rabbit's foot or some sort of a pre-packaged horseshoe that you hang up over the door. It's not something that you put over in the corner of your office that emits some kind of magic rays and you breathe these and you're successful. An SMI program, in order to be effective, has to be used. We understand that. Now, there's another thing we need to understand, and that's about people. You know, people are interesting. People are very much like sticks of dynamite. They've got an explosive power down inside them that really is tremendous. People are also like sticks of dynamite in that they've got fuses. Now, some sticks of dynamite, some people, have got little short fuses, stubby, powder-filled, cocked and primed and ready to fire. And so you sell one of these kind of people a program, and you'll have this kind of experience. Those of you that have been in SMI a while will have had one. You'll sell a person like this a program. A couple of weeks later, early in the morning or late at night, when you least expect it, your phone will ring. And boy, when it does, you jerk that phone away from your ear. Because the other guy on the other end of the line is talking loud and he's talking fast. And he's saying something like this, "Woo, man, this thing's fantastic. This is great." And you say, "Well, tell me about it." And he said, "Boy, I got that thing home and I finally got my wife calmed down and I got it back in the bedroom where, like you told me, and I started listening to these tapes over and over again, and these positive ideas began to get into my head. I began to think about it, and I got a goal, you know. I said, I'm going to crack the Acme account. Boy, and I marched in my sales manager's office, and I said, I'm going after the Acme account. Oh, he said, no use? No way you can sell the Acme account. I said, I believe I can do it. And he's still talking on the phone, you know, all excited. You're trying to keep up with it. He said, I listened to those records, and I got motivated. I walked into the Acme account, and I stood there in front of the president, and I made a fantastic presentation. I was smooth, I was sharp, I was confident. All those ideas came back. I not only got the Acme account, I got the biggest order we've ever had in the history of our company. Man, I'm telling you, these programs are fantastic. Ha! So you hang up the phone, see? You say, whoo, what a business. Well, we've got a great business, but we've also got to recognize that we sold the program to a guy with a little short fuse. See, that same day, maybe 2 weeks ago, you sold a program to another guy. He doesn't call you, so you call him. Conversation goes kind of like this. You know, you ring his phone. He picks it up. This is Tom Norfleet from SMI. So you say, are you listening to your program? He said, yeah, I'm listening to it. My wife told me if I put that much money in something, you know, I had to listen to it. Yeah, I'm listening to it all right. Well, are you enjoying it? Well, yes, I'll have to say that. I really am enjoying it. It's very interesting. But what kind of change are you feeling? Can you tell any difference? Eh. Well, can you feel anything happening? No? Well, keep listening. He says, okay, I will. So you hang up the phone. You say, what's wrong? Oh, no problem. Nothing's wrong. Nothing wrong with the program. Nothing wrong with you. The fact is that this second guy that you sold, he's just like the first one. He's just like a stick of dynamite, all right. But he's just got a long, wet, soggy fuse. That's all. And that's the only difference. It took him maybe 35, 40 years to get that big, long, soggy fuse. We're not going to be able to cut it off overnight, but we are going to be able to light that fuse. And it's going to sizzle and it's going to sputter, but pretty soon it's going to begin to catch and it's going to begin to burn, and pretty soon it's going to get down into that explosive powerhouse that's in him just like anybody else. It's a powerful idea. I think perhaps I could express it best if we could use an illustration. And I'd like to use an illustration from the world of sports, and I would like to have your cooperation, because I'd like to have your imagination for just a few minutes. I want you to move from here where we are to a football stadium. Now, the stadium you pick out is up to you. You just pick one out where the team that plays there is important to you. Now, I want to set the stage for you. This is an important game. It's one of those games in a season where if the team wins, it's a great season, and if the team loses, it seems like everything is for naught. That's the kind of game it is. Now, in this game, it's late in the fourth quarter. There's just a little over 2 minutes to play. And I want you to see yourself, because you're up on the 50-yard line, and you're sitting there. And you've got your elbows on your knees, and you've got your chin in your hands, and you're dejected. And the reason for your dejection is written up on the scoreboard, because there's the awful story. There's just a little over 2 minutes to play. Your team is 4 points behind. The other team has got the ball. First down, 10 to go. But they haven't made a mistake all day. All they've got to do is just run that ball out for a first down, run a couple of more plays, kick, and then it'll be too late for your team to do anything. A field goal won't help. And so there you sit, the whole season at stake, just a matter of time until your team loses the game. And then all of a sudden, and you can't quite detect what caused it, but all of a sudden there seems to be sort of an excitement that runs up through those stands. All of a sudden you realize that something unusual has happened down there on the field. And so you look up, and you look down there on the field, and you realize that the almost unbelievable miracle has taken place, because somehow that offensive quarterback has fouled up a handoff, and they fumble in their backfield, and all of a sudden there's a mad scramble for the ball, and you're on your feet, and you're looking down there. And they're all piling up on top of it with that strange logic of football players, which seems to tell them that if just one more boy piles up on top of the pile, it'll somehow change who's got the ball on the bottom. And so there you are. And you're sitting. And some of you that haven't been to church in 15 years, you've got kind of this prayerful attitude there. It's an important thing, this game. And those guys blow those whistles, and they run in there and stop that action, and they begin to peel those guys off the top of that stack, just pushing them back. And they finally get down to the bottom. And when they do, there comes one of those great thrills in sports, because you realize that the boy on the bottom of the stack with the football pulled up into his chest has got the kind of jersey that your team wears. And you've got the ball. First down. Goal to go. You've got a chance. And about that time, the 2-minute warning sounds. Oh, there you are. Whole new set of circumstances. Finally, the 2-minute warning is over. The whistle blows. Your quarterback runs back out on the field. The center sees him coming, pokes up his hand. Those boys snap in that huddle. It's always exciting to me to see those strong young athletes standing there in that huddle and that young quarterback confidently kneeling down there and describing that play. And when he's got the play called, they clap their hands and they come out of that huddle and they come up to the line of scrimmage, and that young quarterback walks up. He checks over those offensive linemen of his and checks over his backfield and looks out there at that defensive formation. He leans down under that center. The crowd's noisy, and so he stops. And it's a hometown crowd, and when he raises his hands, all of a sudden, zoom, they just get quiet. And way up there on the 50-yard line, you can hear him call that play. Pretty soon when he's got that play called, he takes that ball from the center, and with the grace and the coordination and the skill born of countless hours of practice, he hands it off to that fullback coming out of the backfield. Now here comes that fullback. Full blast. Boy, he grabs that ball. He pulls it down inside his stomach. He sure doesn't want to drop it. He pulls in his neck because he sure doesn't want to get it stepped on. He rolls that shoulder because he wants to hit hard. And about that time, some other things begin to happen. Those offensive linemen are charging out, trying to open up a hole, and it all happens at once, and whack! That fullback hits the line. Well, when the play's over, and the fullback's on his back, and he tosses the ball up to the official, and he looks up on the scoreboard, and there the awful truth is told. It's second down. 4 yards to go. And the clock is running. He didn't gain an inch. Now, the point of the whole story takes place right here. When that fullback tosses the ball to the official and comes back up into the huddle, and if you were there, you would hear him say something like this when he sticks his head in the huddle. He'd say, well, fellas, I tried. Give the ball to somebody else. Too tough for me. Did everything I was supposed to do. Didn't score. Maybe he'd stand up. Wave over to the coach on the sideline. Take me out, coach. Take me out. Now, is that what he would do? Listen, you and I know that's not what he would do. If it's a well-run football team, nobody talks in that huddle except the quarterback. But if you could hear the prayer in that young fullback's heart, you'd know he would be saying something like this, give me that ball. Give me that ball. Why? Because that young man would hit that line and hit that line and hit that line 100 times if you'd give him that many downs. Why would he do it? Because he's a young man who has a goal and a desire. He is a self-motivated, goal-directed individual. Now listen to me. If young men playing football, which is a game that little boys can play, can take that kind of a spirit and that kind of a dedication, and remember basically it's a spiritual and psychological dedication, into a game like that, how much more should you and I, involved in the important game of life, determine that we are going to be self-motivated and goal-directed people? How much more should we determine that we are going to reach our goals and objectives as individuals? Now, your SMI program can help you do that. It is a powerful, proven technique to make that kind of person out of you. And so I challenge each and every one of you to a renewed dedication in the use of your program. Get what that program has in there for you, and let that program find the things that are in you. To each of you who market SMI programs, I challenge you to a renewed dedication to this tremendous opportunity that we have to motivate people to their full potential. I challenge all of you to pay the price of success, whatever the price that you have to pay, whatever it costs you individually. Pay that price. Whatever it is, it's worth it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.